You're listening to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast with Mike Chappell and Dave Griffiths.
Inside the Fox 59 CBS 4 podcast studio, welcome to another Colts Blue Zone podcast. Alongside Mike Chappell and Matt Adams, I'm Dave Griffiths. Glad to have you along for a quite the jam-packed week here on the pod. Everything from the Dave Griffiths streak in Jacksonville continues to...
I can't believe they still let you go when they know you're going to lose.
The Colts themselves should try to put the kibosh on it.
Ursay should send you to Vegas for the week.
I would love that. If he could send me and my family to somewhere, that'd be awesome. So if he does that, I will not be in Jacksonville next year. But until that is the case, I probably will be. But even more so than just a loss, it piles on for fans this week as probably the most underrated player, at least nationally speaking, on the defensive side of the ball is out for the next 6 games, and Anthony Richardson on the offensive side of the ball is done for the rest of the year. News coming out this week that the AC sprain will warrant surgery for the Colts rookie quarterback. His year is done. After an offseason of the brass at Colts headquarters stressing the importance of reps for their rookie quarterback, this is certainly a big blow to their plans for Anthony Richardson and his development for this year, regardless of what he showed in the first 6 weeks of the season. And
he showed a lot.
Exactly.
He gives you all the reason that you had hope. He showed you it's legit. But it's 4 games and 173 snaps. You got to work in OTAs and training camp, but it's game reps you need. You see things that you haven't seen, and there's still things out there that he hasn't seen. So it's a huge blow. We knew this was coming. It was only a matter of when. There was no rush. I think the announcement came a week, 8 days, 9 days after, right. 10 days after the injury. So they explored all the options, and it came down to what is the best long-term remedy. It was not, let's wait 6 weeks and see if he can play, and then if not surgery, then you're cutting into his rehab time. The time they wait is not going to hurt. So they did rely on history of how the Andrew Luck thing went down. It was a torn labrum against Tennessee in Week 4, and didn't have surgery, played through it, and then it was just a mess. So that wasn't the team as much as it was Andrew wanting to play. And it was good for the short term, bad for the long term. So they're looking out for their future. And a lot of us thought 2023 was all about the experience anyway, and the reps. And if you got a lot of wins, fine, or some wins, fine. So, but at least the enthusiasm and the hope should be there because you've seen enough to know that this guy can be your quarterback if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, Matt, I think the takeaway from Anthony Richardson's first year, you've got to be disappointed as a Colts fan, as a member of the Colts front office, as a player there in the locker room, that it happened the way that it did. But as Mike alluded to, in his time on the field, Richardson showed why the Colts took him 4th overall. It wasn't a completely empty bag. There are other rookie quarterbacks like Bryce Young. If he got injured at this point in the year,
you wouldn't know.
The Panthers would not know, but the Colts seem to have more of a reason to know what they have and optimism that development can continue, even though it is, like I said, it has to be a disappointment and a big one for it to go down the way it did.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys are putting an optimistic spin on it. Well, and you need to, because honestly, that was the biggest question mark about Richardson when he came out. Does he have the experience? Can he handle this NFL offense? Is he going to be able to compete at this level? And I think even though it's definitely a limited debut that we got to see from him, I think he was able to check all those boxes and answer all of those critics. Yes, he can run this offense. Yes, they can still open things up and expand. Yes, he's going to be able to run the ball. He's going to be able to throw the ball. Made some very nice plays that I don't think not too many players in the league can make. But it is disappointing to know that it's just going to be kind of a lost season from a development standpoint for the kid. And I know they said they're going to keep him engaged and he's going to learn, he's going to watch film, but there is nothing that replaces being out there on the field.
One of the big questions that really persisted over the last month is, will they change his style? Will they cut back on what they do? And the answer to me is no. You drafted this kid knowing this is his game. You have the big strong arm and all that, but it was a threat that he brings. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts. I look at these injuries. The bruised knee it's hard. I don't remember the play, but the concussion, that's avoidable. We've talked, run through the end zone and then don't snap your head. I look at the injury that put him down. What are you supposed to do? It's a designed run. You get to the corner. Now I guess you can be aware that there will be pursuit, but they just fell on the shoulder wrong. There was a play Monday night where a receiver got tackled on the shoulder and he popped up because it wasn't like that. You try to school him on when you can avoid risks. This is who he is, and it's just kind of, I guess, fluky, but everybody looks back to the Andrew Luck and the injuries and you say, here we go again. This is who he is. You can minimize risks, but this is who he is.
Yeah, it's going to be there's going to be that risk with a running quarterback. It is with Lamar Jackson. It was with Cam Newton. That's the life that Jim Irsay and Chris Ballard signed up for when they drafted him 4th overall. You get everything that you get with Richardson. You get the quote from Irsay this week that's been circulating is a really good quote at the NFL owners meetings in New York, comparing who was it? I've seen the future of rock and roll, and it's Bruce Springsteen back in the 70s to Jim Irsay now saying I've seen the future of the NFL, and it's Anthony Richardson.
He needs to just temper it a little. A little bit. We're talking 4 games.
Yes.
But I know where his enthusiasm is.
Right. You see why he has that enthusiasm. So I think, speaking of Jim Irsay right now, I'm sure that he is exceptionally disappointed, not just to have your quarterback gone, but to only have him and Jonathan Taylor on this field for 1 snap together, just after you sign him to this $42 million deal, after you have seen what you saw from Richardson to give you some optimism in this year, not just in the future, but some optimism now. You get that deal to get Jonathan Taylor in to try to continue working on Richardson's development with your best playmaking player on offense, and now you saw literally just 1 snap with them together. That has got to really grind his gears.
A pitch to the left for 3 yards.
Yep, that's it. And that's the only thing we have. And you got to figure that's going to be a very important part of the Colts offense over the next 2 years, that at least that Taylor is still under contract and when Richardson comes back and is healthy. So you just got so very little of it this year. That is exceptionally frustrating, I'm sure, for everyone involved in the front office, and it should be. It certainly should be. Gardner Minshew is now the team's starting quarterback. Sam Ellinger is the backup.
There should have been like a drum roll right there.
I know. And Kellen Mond is signed to the practice squad to fill in for that 3rd quarterback role for the foreseeable future. Chap, we talked a little bit about it last week, of course, but at that time it was just in a maybe a limited part, but now it's for the rest of the season.
Take the maybe out of it.
Exactly. So the two games that Gardner Minshew has started, he has not been productive. In the games that he came in off the bench, very productive. Because
they prepared for the running quarterback.
Right. Very efficient. But against the Ravens, the only reason the Colts won that game was an historic kicking performance from Matt Gay. Literally, no kicker in the NFL history.
What did we look up? He's got 6 50-yarders.
Yes.
The league record is 11.
11. Last year, the Raiders' Daniel Carlson hit 11 50-plus yard field goals last year.
And the Colts' record is 9.
Yes. And that was
last year.
Last year.
I think he's going to have plenty of opportunities.
See, that's not a good thing.
No.
Again, we go back to when people were complaining about 4 years, $22 million for the kicker. He may be your MVP this year.
Yeah.
So, and whatever we say, it sounds like we're piling on Minshew, but it's not. It's just we're looking at what they're going to be with him and what they could have been with the rookie, and it's just different. The thing at Jacksonville, what it just drove home to me is he can't be the problem. Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard enough anyway.
Yeah.
Because you're playing totally different style. You're playing more ball control, shorter passing game. I feel for Michael Pittman. I really do.
Yep.
But he can't airmail 2 interceptions that were just awful.
Terrible passes.
I can't even say they were bad decisions. They were bad passes.
Yeah.
Now, the one to Pittman in the end zone, it was 4th down, I believe. Mm-hmm. So, but you can't have 4 turnovers. Can't do it. Can they win if he just manages the game? Is that the term? I guess they've got to run the darn ball. They have to. I thought last week they decided on Saturday night we can't run it. We're not going to try, and they didn't. But 2 of your best offensive players now are Zach Moss and JT, and it seems like there is going to be times, maybe this week, where even though teams are going to say you're not going to run it, you have to at least try to a point, I don't know, into the second quarter where, okay, 12 carries haven't given us what we need. Then you get away from it. But you cannot put this offensive load on Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, and at some point you also have to say, well, this is our running game. That's our good. We know that run defense is your good.
Right.
Let's put good on good and see what happens.
Right. Don't just concede.
Right. Exactly. And I'm sure the Colts will also say, and I think this is doing it a little lip service, to say that, well, the screen game or the short passing game,
the dump off to Moss,
make that it's sort of the run game, but there's really no substitute for out-physicaling an opponent, out being more physical than the guys across the line.
We were better than you at what we do.
And it demoralizes the other side, no matter which side it is. If it's the offense grinding the defense into a pulp and getting 5-6 yards a pop every time, if it's the defense every other play getting a tackle in the backfield, it goes both ways. So you have to line up with your best players, give them the ball in what they do. And for the Colts right now, like you said, that seems to be Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss in some combination. And then after that, see if you can do something to stretch the defense. Because actually, the great irony in this Jacksonville game was the Colts had 3 different plays where they had 40-plus yard completions. And 2 of them were relatively deep shots from Minshew.
And then you had the Taylor.
And then the Taylor run, exactly.
But that's the point with Taylor. With the run game, give him his 15 to 18 carries, and maybe 10 of them you don't get much.
Right.
But he's gonna break one because that's who he is. Mm-hmm. And we saw Zach Moss, of course, it was blocked perfect with that 56-yarder. But like you said, this is who you are. This is kind of who you want to be anyway. Mm-hmm. Even with Richardson, it's just that he's no longer that option. But then Taylor is that option. So I just think that at some level you cannot rely on. If Minshew throws 55 passes, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
If any quarterback for the most part throws 55, I've got the stats. Peyton wasn't very good. If you're throwing 55, you're getting beat.
Right.
So it's do what you do. Hope you can compensate. Grover Stewart, we can't gloss over that.
Nope. Got to get into that.
He was such a force in the run game. He and DeForest Buckner are so good, and it's gonna be by committee, and we'll see if an Eric Johnson or Taven Bryan or somebody, maybe Addy gets in there. I'm not going to screw up his name. Addy Tomiwa.
Yep. Adibara.
Yeah, it's Addy. But it's going to be by committee. But that it's not going to be a bigger loss than AR, but it's a big loss.
It's a big loss for the defensive side of the ball, so we'll get there next. A 6-game suspension for the Colts defensive tackle, Grover Stewart. Let's see. Grover, in the last year of his contract, it was a 3-year, $30 million deal,
Correct.
or something like that. And he's going to miss out on essentially $3.1 million by getting suspended for these 6 games.
Plus the potential to earn $2 million more on roster or per game bonuses.
Right, that as well. So yeah, I pile them on. And for the Colts, I haven't heard one real negative thing about Grover. Everyone is bending over backwards to say, well, he would never cheat himself. He would never cheat the game. He doesn't have that type of that bone in his body. But at the same time, like with the deal with performance enhancing substances, it's not like this is all like illegal stuff. There is stuff you can buy over the counter. There's stuff that you can buy from GNC, from Vitamin Shop or whatever, that has not been properly tested, that does not that can violate.
There's a list of all, it's like 47 or 50 things that's on
right
the NFLPA website.
Exactly. And like I'm saying, Like I was getting to that eventually, but thank you for getting me there because I was stumbling on my way. There is a specific list that you cannot put in your body, at least to a certain point. And as a player, it is your responsibility, period, to not put any of those things inside your body.
There's no good excuse because there's no excuse.
No, it is a black and white list.
We went through this with Robert Mathis.
Yep.
What he took, it was something. Was it for
fertility?
Yeah,
yes.
it was a
for
fertility
his
drug.
grandma to get his. They don't care.
Right. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you take it for. There are banned substances and there are allowed substances. If you take a banned substance and you get tested, boom.
If you have any question, first check the list.
Right.
And then check with the NFLPA. And again, the fact that this doesn't happen a lot means that the vast majority of players know what's going into their body.
Right. And if they try a new substance, or a new product, I should say, they vet it first.
You
and
better.
Whatever happened, whatever it was, like it was not properly vetted by Grover, by a nutritionist, by whatever it is.
I would assume that he has, the team I know has nutritionists, but I assume a lot of these players do too, kind of have guys, say you should take this or do this or what have you. I'm just really surprised when this happens for that reason.
Because there's so many safeguards.
Yeah.
And by the league rules, this is a first offense for an anabolic steroid, which is often used to mask use of other things, testosterone, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's why you can't allow it, because these usually are masking agents.
Right.
And he's gone for 6 games, and it's going to be felt.
He'll be gone for the rest of October, all of November, and he returns possibly on December 4th after the Colts' second game against Tennessee there, way deeper into the season. So you mentioned it, Chap, more playing time for Taven Bryan, more playing time for Eric Johnson. We could see Tyquan Lewis and Dio Dangbo slide inside a little bit more too. Kind of might depend on matchups.
They've got depth. They've got versatile parts.
They do.
But none of them are that guy.
Right. None of them are as dominant as Grove is.
Right.
Right. And I expect that like some of those players are good enough to win one-on-one battles on the inside with certain players in the NFL. And DeForest Buckner's now probably going to get the lion's share, if not all double teams. And I mean, he kind of joked about that today when we're talking to him in the locker room. He's like, yeah, I get them anyway. Like,
right.
Do you expect more double teams? He's like, well, I get quite a few anyway. So there will still be quite a few lined up against the Colts all-pro level interior defensive player there. So it's going to be tougher on Buckner. It's going to be tougher on the linebackers behind him.
Zaire Franklin mentioned that.
Yep, for sure, because Grover eats up 2 blockers, allows him to move around a little bit freer right behind him and make as many tackles as he had this season.
We saw, I mean, not necessarily an apples-to-apples comparison here, but we saw when DeForest Buckner was limited against the Rams, a team that had not run the ball very well.
160-some yards.
They really struggled in that run game, in that run defense that had been very, very good. So now you take Grover away from this for 6 games. Right. It's going to take them a while to find some answers if they can even do that.
And that was one of the Colts needed to be good against the run. They still need to be good against the run because that secondary is still young. Like I like the way Juju Brents has played. He had 7 tackles last week, 2 passes defended, 1 interception, his first interception as a pro. He had a pretty good game. He got popped in the face, man, really, really hard. In the locker room afterward, you could see that it was still bothering him, and it was like his face was all cut up. So he played a tough game, but like all that to say, the back end is the weaker link of this Colts team.
Didn't they have 2 more assignment busts that led to touchdowns?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
One on Brent's side and one's on the other side.
Yep, exactly. So like they're going through growing pains. That's what you do. You have really good plays as rookies, and you have really bad plays.
And the bad plays are bad. They're point plays. They're going to cost you.
Yep, and that's what it's happened this season multiple times.
I mean, they got the game winner for Puka Nacua off of a miscommunication there in the secondary.
Yep. So you're just gonna have to live with that, and you that's what we've said throughout the offseason with Anthony Richardson. You had to live with that on that side of the ball. You have to live with it on the defensive side of the ball. So the hope was that the front 7, could be the grounding force, the leading force in the Colts defensive attack, and you bring out Grover Stewart, and that just makes it a little bit weaker up front, undeniably so, a little bit weaker. And so you're relying on other people who don't have his skill set, and it just makes the entire unit's quality go down a rung. So other people need to step up. Other people need to fill in. You hope to see some of those rookies on the back end get more experience continually, make fewer mistakes as the season goes on. But that's you want your stars to be on the field so those guys have more time to get better in the secondary, wherever it might be. And so that's where the Colts are at right now on the defensive side of the ball. Can the Colts end their streak in Jacksonville? Matt says a definitive no. We move on. But yes.
What is it, 9?
It's not 9 road games. Is that right? Yeah, 9 games, 9
it's
technical
tied,
road
it's tied
games.
for the franchise record.
Yes,
with Pittsburgh.
Yes.
So there's
and that was and people who were here in the mid 2000s who or with that there was it was frustrating because the Colts were a good team and they just could not beat Pittsburgh
until Peyton won there in the mid 2000s and made them. But it's inexplicable. It's been with against 8 different quarterbacks, I think, with Jacksonville, and probably 7 or 8 Colts.
So it doesn't matter who's coaching at Jacksonville, who's playing at Jacksonville, the scheme the Colts are running, who's in charge of the Colts. It just is a thing. That's all you can say.
No, we've said there have been a million factors on the field, but one stupid reporter who's gone to all these dumb games, and that's yours truly.
If they let you go again, it's inexplicable.
Well, we can start up a GoFundMe to keep Dave in Central Indiana, and I will gladly accept all proceeds. And if it reaches a certain level, I will You'll listen.
Call in sick.
Exactly. I'll listen to the Colts fans. I can't make it, guys. Sorry, I shouldn't be flying on a day like today. But as we look forward, the Colts come back home for their next 2 games. Immediately in the future, a date with the Cleveland Browns, who just knocked off one of the NFL's unbeaten squads last week in the San Francisco 49ers. To be fair, the 49ers were without 2 of their top playmakers who got injured during the game, Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. But nevertheless,
didn't play second half, I don't think.
Exactly.
McCaffrey had 1 carry at second half.
Right. Still, you have him for the entire first half, and they
True.
held them to 13 points. And San Francisco had been racking it up. I mean, maybe not 70-point Miami Dolphins level, but 30-point level week after week after week, scoring against people. So, and San Francisco still has other weapons. They have Brandon Ayuk. He's had a tremendous season there for them in San Francisco. So they were able to limit them because the Browns have easily one of the best defenses in the NFL, and they have one of the best defensive players in the NFL in Myles Garrett. And Garrett, when he looks at the Colts offense and he looks across the field and he sees Blake Freeland at right tackle, I know that he'll usually line up on the right side against left tackles, but if they move him around, like you got to figure, if you're Jim Schwartz, the Browns defensive coordinator, that's a matchup that you would like to put one of the best defenders in the NFL against a rookie making his 4th now start. I made a couple at left tackle. Now he'll probably make a 2nd at right tackle, assuming Braden Smith can't go this weekend.
He's not practicing today.
Exactly.
So he's not going to play.
Exactly. So that's what the matchup is going to be.
That's what you do. That's what you find weak links or perceived weak links. I thought Freeland played pretty well last week.
Not bad.
I thought I saw somebody had him ranked as the top run blocking tackle, which is crazy because
good for him. Great.
They didn't run.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's whatever you want to use for those, but that he's going to go out there and there's going to be a spotlight from the Cleveland sideline on Blake Freeland. That's what you do.
It's like there was 3 years ago, the Colts' last matchup against the Browns. I believe it was the last matchup 3 years ago when it was in Cleveland. Phillip Rivers playing quarterback. That was the
awful game.
It was a terrible game. I was there. I remember that game. There's the common denominator again. Exactly. But Anthony Costanzo did not play in that game, and the Colts played LaRaven Clark at left tackle against Myles Garrett. And I'm sure that automatically has post-traumatic stress triggers in Colts fans to hear that. And there were multiple. I know Rivers was sacked for a safety. He had a couple of interceptions. He was straight surly after that game, Phillip. I remember just listening to the press conference, and you could tell watching that game just how badly that offensive line was ravaged by the Cleveland Browns defense. And Myles Garrett specifically. And they're going to try to do that again. And they're going to try to get to Gardner Minshew because the Jacksonville game last week proved that he could be gotten to. Like those mistakes that were made were with a little bit of pressure. It wasn't even heavy pressure. It was a little pressure that pushed him back in the pocket. Minshew throwing the ball as he's kind of backing up and just either shorting it or drastically overshooting it. So the blueprint is there to beat Gardner Minshew, and the Browns have the players to follow that blueprint. It could be a rough go if indeed they're allowed to follow it. The Browns on offense are only scoring 19 points per game. They're 20th in the NFL. But on defense, points allowed, they're 5th in points per game. So they're way up there in the league.
They're top 5 in everything.
Just about everything.
Yeah, their defense under Jim Schwartz.
They've given up 52 first downs.
52
in 5
first
games.
downs. So they're an average of 10 first downs a game. That's really good for those of you out there who are unfamiliar. So I think the crazy stat for them is on the total number of drives that their defense has been out there on the field, half of their drives, the opposing team hasn't gotten a first down or something like that. It's a ludicrous stat that it's not like this defense is a dramatic takeaway machine defense, Chap. It's just a good, solid defense that does not allow other teams to gain yards. It is not a bend but don't break defense that we saw for years with the Colts under Matt Eberflus that was able to generate turnovers at proper times or stiffen up in the red zone and keep the numbers down points-wise. This is a defense that just simply does not give up too much space.
Which makes you be patient on offense. And I always go back, I default to Peyton Manning. He said, like, when they played at Baltimore, you know it's going to be an ugly game, and there's going to be a lot of bad series, bad plays, but you don't compound it with the mistake. That's why I say with Minshew, there's going to be 5 or 6 times in the game that he's got to make a play.
Yeah.
3rd and 6, whatever. But you can't compound things with turnovers. I don't want to call them unforced turnovers, but those first 2 interceptions were like unforced turnovers. They really were. So it's gonna be an ugly game. I think we'll get to the over-under is like 40.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, don't you pile on the under?
You might think so, yeah.
But again, they're going to force you to accept the fact that Cleveland's probably going to win more plays than you do offensively. But be patient. Try to pick your spots and don't make mistakes.
We've seen in the past that special teams can win these types of games if you get the proper punt, field goals like we saw earlier this year, just winning the field position battle enough to scrape out points here and there. I don't think there'll be much going for it on 4th and 4 from the 35-yard line in this game because points will be at a premium. You will want to get those 3 on the field and then just put it out there and see if your defense can stack up. Of course, that goes out the window if you're in the second half. And
but they're going to be without Deshaun Watson.
Exactly. That's very likely.
And Nick Chubb, obviously.
Yes.
So this, like you said, 19 points a game. That doesn't win in the NFL.
Not typically.
But, Cleveland makes it work. It's just, again, when you rely on your defense, then you can't make mistakes either. But this is going to be really a interesting and ugly game.
So you bring up the fact that the Browns are without Deshaun Watson. There is a familiar name there for diehard Colts fans from years past who will be starting a quarterback.
Phillip Walker.
So it's a half familiar name with Phillip Walker. You might remember P.J. Walker back in his days.
He left here and he changed his name.
Exactly, on the Colts practice squad, and Andrew Luck would sing his praises all the time, talk about how much he liked him. He was certainly a guy that was liked in the locker room. I asked Shaq Leonard about him today, and he talked about sitting next to him just as rookies together in a meeting and going over things together and learning together about life in the NFL. And he's carved out a role for himself in the league. You can carve out a good role as a backup quarterback. And his time here spent during his time in Indianapolis was beneficial, allowed him to go on and get more of a significant backup style role in other places. He played a bit for the Panthers last year, I believe. And now he's in Cleveland as the number 2 to Deshaun Watson, which has made him number 1 now with Deshaun Watson's injuries.
I saw something that Watson has like a rotator cuff issue.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. A sprained rotator cuff is what I've heard.
Yeah, and who knows?
And a sprain is a tear.
A strained rotator cuff.
Okay, strain is also a tear, I think, too. Yes,
it's just degree, isn't it?
Exactly. And as our friend Will Carroll at Injury Expert on Twitter says all the time, he's got the shirt. It's printed. Sprain is a tear. Strain is a tear. So that's not a good thing for a quarterback to have.
He's not thrown for like 3 weeks.
Exactly. So
he's a quarterback.
Even if he comes back and practices at the end of this week, what's the likelihood that he plays? It's probably not that much if you're throwing for the first time in 3 weeks.
I think I saw something where he's now earned about $90 million.
Well, good for him.
From that contract.
Yikes.
Well, guaranteed money's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is.
Yeah, and he got quite a bit of it, as we all remember.
$230?
$230, I believe, $230 million. That's quite the chunk. And then as other quarterbacks have tried to get that in recent years, other GMs and front offices have been like, nah.
We'll give you the $230. It ain't guaranteed.
It ain't going to be guaranteed. That was not some watershed moment in NFL contract history.
And some people thought it would be.
that's a reasonable first question when it happens, of course. Like, is this going to be the thing in the future? But you look around the league, and there have just been stone walls. And
what was crazy is, because they don't normally do it, is some GMs came out and really criticized the deal.
Yep.
I know the Baltimore said, that can't be where we're going.
Yeah.
And these guys are getting 67% of their contracts guaranteed, but they're not getting Deshaun Watson guarantees.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So let's see here. The Browns offense, let's see, with it's even been more than the Dorian Thompson-Robinson has played a little quarterback as well. He started one game for them.
And it was not.
It was not pretty.
It was not good.
Well, it's not like P.J. Walker's been all that pretty either. No. But yeah, exactly. So both of them. Running back Jerome Ford has 67 carries, 270 yards, and a touchdown. Let's see, Kareem Hunt and Pierre Strong Jr. also play in their backfield. You look at the wide receivers, you got players like Amari Cooper, has 22 catches for 367 yards and a touchdown. He is a big play threat. He has 6 catches of 20-plus yards, so you always got to be careful of him taking the top off your defense. Elijah Moore, they got from the Jets this past offseason, 21 catches, only 167 yards. That is a very small. That's like Jack Doyle size, or even less than that average yards per catch. 21 catches.
Don't be dumping on Jack Doyle.
No, I would never. I would never dump on Jack Doyle. I'm just pointing out
that's
what
you want to see out of a wide out.
Exactly.
Though.
It's not. It's more.
Jack was a tight end.
Yeah, it's more possession tight end on 3rd and 6 level than it is a wide receiver type level on the outside. David Njoku, 19 catches for 162 yards, no touchdowns himself. You also see a guy named David Bell over there, wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns.
Hasn't done much, has he?
No, he has not done. Like, I've been surprised at just the level or lack thereof of production for David Bell. So I don't know what the deal is with him over there, but had a heck of a career at Warren Central. Led the Warren Central basketball team to a championship, led the football team to a championship, I believe, too, during his career there, and then went to Purdue and had a heck of a career with the Boilers, was a first-team All-American, I believe, in one of those years there in West Lafayette, but just hasn't translated his skill set to the NFL just yet. It would certainly help to have a more productive quarterback throwing the ball, too, and P.J. Walker, Philip Walker, to his credit, is, like I said, has carved out a backup role, but he doesn't have the same characteristics, the same ability that Deshaun Watson at full speed or at full go has. And Watson, really, to be fair to the Browns, or to be fair to the wide receivers in that situation, he hasn't shown that ability that he showed in Houston for years. He has not been that dynamic running threat or a threat with the arm. Like, he was both of them very much in Houston. He could attack you downfield. He could evade pressure, just chuck it up to Will Fuller whenever he was healthy and go 60 yards very easily. You'd see that multiple times a game, it seemed like. Find DeAndre Hopkins down the field. Whatever it was, he was good at both, really, at the running threat and at the deep passing threat. Really, I think kind of a model for what the Colts hope that Anthony Richardson can be eventually one day, and maybe even more running for Richardson, but just to be a guy who threatens you downfield with a big, strong arm. That big, strong arm has not been there for them at all. It is very much a shell of what Deshaun Watson was so far with Cleveland.
Right, and what both teams find out is when you can't stretch the field, it just constricts everything, which makes everything harder, makes it tougher. And when all these numbers we've talked about with Cleveland, it is just critical that this defense finds a way to play a tight game. And don't give up. Don't let Amari Cooper go off.
Right.
Don't let Njoku go off. This guy's had big games before, so you can't let this Browns team get out and do things that right now they've not been capable of doing. So as much as I'm worried about what this offense can do, the defense has got to keep things tight and again, compensate for Grover not being there. And don't have those botched assignments on the back end.
Right. Don't give up more than you should.
Right. Whatever should is.
Exactly. And what they should give up with this group, you look at who they are. Amari Cooper is one name that scares you.
Correct.
After that, names that scare you, names that keep you up at night. I don't know if there are any out.
You want to say Kareem Hunt, but he's not gotten that much work.
Too much. Exactly. Not this year. Maybe Kareem Hunt 5 yeyears ago, but not as much over the last year and then this year too. I mean, the Colts even had Kareem Hunt in for a tryout a while back, and there was some new thought that he might sign here. And that obviously went elsewhere when Nick Chubb went down with injury. That was just the easy fit for him, going back to the place where he was before, knowing the offense, knowing the scheme, knowing the players. And so he signed there. But again, it's been a platoon back there in the backfield for him so far. So when you look at the Browns' offense, not scary. Defense is quite a bit scarier. Their leading tacklers, safety Grant Delpit, only has 27 to be their leading tackler. That's like half of what Zaire Franklin has.
He's got like 70.
Exactly. And the reason for this is, like I said earlier, they're not on the field for all that many plays. I mean, they get the other offense off the field.
It's a 3 and out. You only have those three opportunities to get a tackle.
Those are the chances that you get. That's it. So they have much fewer tackles because they've seen fewer plays for sure. Anthony Walker, former Colt, has 20 tackles for them this year as well. So, but if you look for their playmakers, Myles Garrett leads the pack. He has 5.5 sacks this year. Obo Okoronkwa has 2.5 sacks this year.
That's how I pronounce it in my head too, Dave.
There you go.
Yeah.
What is it again?
Yeah, you don't need to know. I said it once. You can rewind the podcast.
Okoronkwa.
There you go, and find it again. But they're just tough, man. They're just tough to move the ball against. They play good, disciplined defense. Jim Schwartz has been a defensive coordinator in this league for a long time. He was the DC when the Eagles won the Super Bowl a couple years ago over the Patriots. I know that, obviously. And then he was the head coach in Detroit for a while, which didn't pan out well at the time, but he goes back to being a defensive coordinator and certainly has proven why he earned that job as a head coach, several years back, because of his affinity for coaching defense. And you see that across the league from time to time, is guys who are really good defensive coordinators or even offensive coordinators, but defensive coordinators specifically get that job. It doesn't quite work out, but then they go back and they're immediately really good defensive coordinators again. Guys like Leslie Frazier is another one that comes to mind, who is the Bills defensive coordinator for a long time after not working out as the Vikings head coach. Like sometimes these defensive coordinators are just thrive in that aspect
Vic
of their
Fangio.
role. Exactly. Vic Fangio is another one who is with the Dolphins now. Vic Fangio is and doing some good work with their team after not working out as a head coach. So Schwartz very much in that realm. He likes to bring pressure, man, and he likes the wide nine. He likes to go from the outside, and Myles Garrett will go here, there, and everywhere to get pressure on your quarterback.
And he's the kind of guy that he only has to win 3 or 4 times in a game.
That's it. Like
it's not fair, but that's the way it is.
But that's life in the NFL. Like if you're a defensive player, we said this for years with J.J. Watt. Like if you win 3 reps and they're game-changing reps, you're an All-Pro. And you can lose 50, you can lose 60, you can lose 70. If you win 3, then you're the best thing since sliced bread over there.
I was watching the Monday night game, and Micah Parsons was okay, but no big plays. And then 3rd down or 4th down, whatever it was, he sacks Justin Herbert.
Yep.
Game's over.
Boom. And that's it. Let's look at the Colts injury report for this week. No practice for Braden Smith, Tony Brown, Kylan Granson, or Alec Pierce on Wednesday. Pierce was out there with a helmet on and working with trainers over to the side. But I
get the impression from what we've seen, Brett Bensley mentioned he's out there today.
Okay.
Doing more.
Yep.
So, I think there's a chance for him. Braden Smith's not practicing. Braden Smith's not playing.
Yeah, there's a 0. That's very close to a 0% chance.
The one thing I haven't seen is an update on Kylan Granson with concussion. He'd need to be red jersey today,
right,
which I don't know.
Right.
Again, we've only had one player play, and that was Mo.
But that was a Colts tight end.
Yes, well, true.
Yes.
But he only played 8 plays, which I don't understand.
Neither did I.
Either play or don't play.
Right. That was kind of funky.
And if you don't think he's ready to go full go, you don't play him.
Right.
But
so odd considering how they did with Ogletree, because it was the same process. I know
he was a healthy. He was
healthy scratch.
He passed through, and then he was a healthy scratch.
Yeah, very strange. So we'll keep our eye on those, and the Colts could use Tony Brown back in the lineup. Some veteran presence there in the secondary too. The Browns had 9 players who did not practice on Wednesday's injury report. 3 players were for rest. 1 was a personal matter though, so that's that.
And it was their kicker,
exactly.
If I remember.
Yeah,
correctly.
that brings the number down quite a bit. But Amari Cooper was a rest/ankle. Myles Garrett rested. Kareem Hunt with a thigh injury. Anthony Walker with a concussion. So we'll see if Anthony Walker gets back in the lineup too, as he's trying to work his way back. And Deshaun Watson did not practice with his, as we said, a right shoulder injury. So that's where the Browns stood on Wednesday. You can follow us on Twitter at Colts Blue Zone for news and notes throughout the week, including injury updates throughout the rest of the week as we get set for the Browns and Colts game this weekend. Matt, you have something over there?
Per rap sheet, Ian Rappaport says Deshaun Watson is practicing today for the first time,
there we
according
go.
to their offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt.
Okay, Alex Van Pelt, yeah. So the first practice, it's not a foregone conclusion that it'll be Phillip Walker, but it just.
Would you rather face a Deshaun Watson who's practiced twice in a month?
You know, we always say that the Colts saw the worst of Marcus Mariota. They seem to have seen some really good play by Deshaun Watson. And even in times when the Colts beat them, he would throw for 350 yards, and then Shaquille Leonard punched the ball
Somebody
out,
would
at
fumble
the
at the goal
2-yard
line.
line. Exactly. You know, they'd be tremendous plays. So, like Deshaun, he still scares the bejesus out of me. Like I just am wondering when it's going to click for him, because I think it will at some point.
You feel like the big play is
Exactly.
always there, a possibility.
But with Phillip Walker, I don't know. I don't feel the same nerves. So that's why I would lean toward, if I was the Colts defensive coordinator, I would rather see Phillip Walker over there than Deshaun Watson. But at the same time, Watson hasn't done anything this year to.
He's had like one game.
Exactly.
That he did something
to terrify me. So maybe I could be convinced the other way, but that's how I would lean in the moment. But it's a 1:00 kickoff. It's airing in the Central Indiana area on CBS 4. Colts and Browns. The Colts are 2-point underdogs from what I saw, and it was just about a 40-point line right there. It's one of the lower ones in the NFL. Like when you see 30s, those are really low. So they're predicting something along the lines of a 21-19 ball game for the Browns in this one. But Chap, why don't you go first again? We'll give you 2 weeks in a row to give your prediction for this Colts game first as they return home, taking on the Browns. Browns have a lot of momentum. Colts really stalled out last week. How do you see this one going down?
I'm still my glass is still half full. Because they've got a chance these next two games at home to give themselves direction. They really do. I didn't expect them to win in Jacksonville. I didn't expect them to play that poorly. I got 19-16, and so the under's gold.
Who do you have winning? 19-16.
Oh, I'm sorry. The good guys.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Because I always figured, and I did it too. Okay, a touchdown and 4 field goals. Is that right? That's 19.
That's 19.
I went to Ball State, but I can add.
Woo.
I just hope they're not all 50-yard field goals, because let's not put it all on the kicker. But it's gonna be some ugly football. But just don't lose it. Make Cleveland beat you.
Yeah, Matt, what do you think?
Boy, it's tough. My predictions, I don't put a lot of stock in them anyway. But I pretty much missed most of the season.
Did you pick Jacksonville?
No, I did not last
okay.
week. Yeah, because I was just trying to give some positive energy, and that did not work at all. So next year I'll know better.
I bring the negative energy every year in Jacksonville. So
as long as Dave is going next year, then I'll know to pick the other way. So I'm going to go ahead and pick against the Colts this week. I think, like Mike said, it's going to be an ugly game. I don't think, even if it matters who plays for Cleveland necessarily, but 16-13. I just think it's going to be a low-scoring.
This is going to be
ugly.
Denver 12-9.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid of that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And maybe the Colts do make one more play than the Browns do, because that's probably what this comes down to.
Yeah. After seeing what I saw last week in Jacksonville, which maybe shouldn't
you should be used to
my
that.
thoughts exactly in the future, but every time I don't know if the Colts are going to find the end zone against this Browns defense. If they do, power to them, but I wouldn't be surprised if they can't do it, just because they've been struggling. And if you don't have Kylan Granson, I think that's a big piece of your offense that you don't have. Like you want to, like Shane Steichen's able to use Kylan Granson in a lot of different scenarios. He's the one tight end that's unique in that group. He's the smaller guy that can do a little bit more in the middle of the field and do more option routes and work through just a different, like I said, different abilities than the Drew Ogletrees and the Mo Alley Coxes than the Will Mallory's. Will Mallory a little bit, maybe close to him, but still bigger tight ends that just play slightly different roles in that offense. So I think that's going to be a bigger loss than you might imagine leading into the week for the Colts offense, when 27 other storylines are getting our attention, like a Grover Stewart, like an Anthony Richardson. So all that to say, I think I'm picking the Browns 17-9 in this game. I don't think it's going to be a very pretty game. If there's more points, then fantastic. We get something fun to cheer for at Lucas Oil Stadium. I'm all for it, but boy, I could definitely see it going the other way, and the Colts struggling to put up points against what has been arguably one of the best defenses in the NFL, certainly one of the best defenses in the NFL, I'll say. But this has all the potential to be just an ugly game where defense reigns. And I think it might still be interesting in the fourth quarter. You know, if it's a 17-9 game, it should be, because it's only a 8-point game. It's a one-score game. So I think it'll be somewhat tense out there, and it'll be fun for a while to try to see what happens. But I just don't think that the first three quarters are going to net all that much enjoyment for either side, really.
You can see it come down to the Colts are down by 4.
Yeah.
And they get the ball back with 4 minutes to go at their own 20.
Yeah.
And you think, well, maybe.
Possibly.
And then maybe Cleveland slams the door.
Exactly. So it just, when Gardner Minshew is out there, I just think it really does limit this offense and what it's supposed to do. And it's unfortunate. It really is that Anthony Richardson is done for the year. I mean, it's just a gut punch for the people who had some hope for more exciting things down the road this season.
I think these last 11 games, it's going to be, the focus is going to be not on Minshew, but on Shane Steichen's game planning to maximize what Minshew does and keep him out of those bad spots. So to me, it's going to be more about how they game plan than players lifting above, because I don't know, without the quarterback, I don't know how high the quarterback can lift them.
Right. I agree. It'll be interesting to see. Like, it'll be somewhat of a, what's the word? A test for the Colts playmakers too, because like who here do you want to build around in the future? Because you obviously want to build around Anthony Richardson, and you're going to build around Jonathan Taylor. Look at the wide receivers. Like, what is Michael Pittman's role going to be on this team in the future? Because that's going to have to be made that decision this offseason.
How do you judge?
Exactly, that's the point.
How do you
that's
judge?
the problem. How do you judge what
we
Michael Pittman can
downplay
do?
Michael Pittman because he's 9.3 a game last year, whatever it was. His quarterbacks, I mean, give him a quarterback for a month.
Just 1 month. That's all we ask.
Say, how many different quarterbacks has he had a 100-yard receiving game from?
4.
That's what
he's had 600-yard games and 4 different quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yep.
So as much as we want more from him, he's as frustrated as anybody, and they've got to decide.
Yep.
You know, with getting Taylor, we're getting a little late here, but
no, it's fine.
But with you've got Taylor done, so you do have the franchise tag, which is probably going to be $25 million
for a wide receiver. Yeah.
And if you slap him with the franchise tag, we might see him. We won't see him until training camp.
Right.
But are you going to pay him 5 years, 125 million with, I don't know, 50, 60 million guaranteed?
Because I think somebody might.
Somebody will. And that's one of the reasons that, and we've talked about it, that Michael Pittman took the exact opposite path that Taylor did. Because he knows that if he stays healthy, he's getting paid receiver money, which is darn near
double.
Twice a running back.
Say receiver money is 5 years ago's quarterback money.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, okay, say that you're not going to invest $25 million in Michael Pittman one way or the other, then you're going to pay that much to replace him.
Yep.
Unless Jim Irsay tells them to give up all their draft picks to move up to get Marvin Jr., which he might.
That's quite possible.
So, but that's the quandary. And as much as we want, I kind of compare Pittman to Miles Turner. You want more, but this is who he is.
Yep.
I don't think that this isn't who Pittman is. This is who they've made him. So I think it's very interesting. And I think one way or the other, Michael Pittman's here next year for $25 million. It depends on whether it's 1 year franchise or multi-year.
Yeah, I think the comparison to Miles Turner, Pacer center, is a really good one, because like they even moved him around in his role with Domas Sabonis when he was here. They moved Miles more into the 4, where the 5 is really his primary position. So he's playing in a manner that does not properly show off his skill set. And when Pittman is trying to work out with these quarterbacks, whoever it might be, with an elderly Matt Ryan or a Gardner Minshew that doesn't have the same downfield capabilities as Anthony Richardson, it's not putting him in the best position to show his ability. So, and can Alec Pierce do anything? Can he make a play? He made a great catch. It was for like 6 yards. It was a tremendous catch. To be fair, it was an awesome catch. I love to watch that catch over and over again if he could do it. But he needs to he needs to do more to prove that he has a future with this team. This is only his second year. He has some more time, to be fair to Alec. But you want to see some steps he takes forward. And what has he shown so far? Downfield ability. Well, you have Gardner Minshew as your quarterback now. You're not going to do that all that often.
You're going to see Josh Downs.
You're going to see more Josh Downs.
He's got it's crazy with all the great receivers in his franchise. He has the most catches in the first 6 games by any receiver.
How about that?
The only guy with more catches than him in his first 6 games is Nyheim Hines.
Yeah,
running back. He's got 28 catches. The other guys didn't have that. So but he's not. He'll be part of it. You need that threat downfield, and they're just not going to have that with Gardner Minshew. They're not.
Colts Browns this weekend, 1 o'clock broadcast in Central Indiana on CBS 4. Join us also on CBS 4 for the Colts Blue Zone pregame show, leading you into the NFL today, and then eventually to that game. So we look forward to what happens this weekend at Lucas Oil Stadium, and the next couple games being here at home should be nice, and we'll see what the Colts can muster up against one of the best defenses in the NFL. For Mike Chappell and Matt Adams, I'm Dave Griffiths. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next week on the Colts Blue Zone Podcast.